If you don't mind me asking, could I hear your reasoning?
Well, because I feel like it's every woman's right to be able to choose for herself what she feels is, the best way of bringing a child into this world. And not all pregnancies are planned, and not all pregnancies are going to be viable. And so we've had family members that have needed to have an abortion, and under these restrictions that we have now, that wouldn't have been an option for them.
I guess we covered a lot. I guess one thing that I caught, I would want to ask about, you said that every woman should have the right, if they want to bring that child into the world. I would agree, and I would say if somebody doesn't want a child, they shouldn't have sex. But I would say if that child is in the womb, they're already in the world. They're just dependent on that mother. So I guess that's one area where I would see a little bit of a dilemma.
Gray area?
A dilemma, I would say, because I would say that child is in the world. You touched on health concerns, right? So would you say that women who don't have health concerns, that they should be able to abort their child just simply because they want to?
Well, I don't think any woman wants to. I think most women come to the decision because of almost feeling forced to. I don't think any woman that I know, and I do know women who have had abortions, thinks, oh, well, this is easy peasy. They contemplate. This is a hard decision to make. And for whatever reason they make it, they come to that conclusion. I would definitely support them in their decision.
Let me ask you a clarifying question. Would you say that a baby in the womb is nothing but a clump of cells?
Pretty much so.
Pretty much so. So
until
I would say
they would be viable.
Do you think so? If women are saying that's a tough decision to make, but it's just a clump of cells, don't you think that's irrational? Because I would say if I were to get a tooth pulled, I wouldn't say it's a tough decision because I think my tooth could be a human being. People would look at me and say, that's irrational. It's just your tooth. It's a part of you, right? So I think we can't just play whatever's most convenient. It's either a clump of cells, and women who think it's a hard decision are irrational, or it's a human being, and them contemplating if their murder is just is actually completely rational.
I consider it murder, I guess.
I would consider it murder. Do you want? Yeah. Could I maybe explain why?
No, because I got to get going, but.
Okay.
But you think though then that when would you conception then for you?
Conception. Yep. Because I believe in biology. So I am big advocate of, not a blind faith guy. I want to see the biology, and I want to see when that's a human being. And I think human beings are worthy of being protected, no matter what people say. It's like these answers, honestly, they don't. I've heard a lot of arguments. They don't shift me much because I still see it as a human being that's worthy of being protected.
Do you ever see there is a reason for abortion ever? Rape?
No.
You okay with rape too?
Not okay with rape, but I think somebody conceived in rape. Somebody conceived in rape is not less valuable than somebody conceived in a loving relationship.
But can you imagine the onus put on a female that has been raped to raise that child?
It's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's absolutely horrible.
Yeah, and so
now they've got a child by this man who raped them.
Maybe they don't even know that person.
They're supposed to raise this child in a loving way. It's
and
going to be
also,
I would say that
financially, I can see. All right, an argument might be for me. Well, who's going to be supporting that child from the time that it's born until they're 18 or 21 or whatever age that a person puts on it?
And I think that's a really good thing to talk about. Like I think the reason why we should talk about it is because they're valuable people. And I think you would stand with me to say if we're trying to figure out solutions to that, right? If we're talking about the best solution, how to care about somebody from ages 0 all the way up to 18. If somebody stepped in between us and said, I think we should just kill him, that'll solve the issue, right? Then nobody has to care for him. I think you and I would both be horrified. And I just don't see why a change in location, somebody being inside somebody and then outside, I don't see why that makes somebody not a person and then a person.
Okay, yeah.
You can go so degrees there. So is IUDs, do you disagree with that?
Well, it's a great question. It's a great question.
And then it's aborted because of the IUD.
So I would like to make it a little broader.
Has happened.
I would like to make it a little broader, if you'll allow me. I would like to switch it into birth control. Me standing against abortion, should I stand against birth control? Great question, right? However, I don't believe that it's a person until it's conceived. So contraception, I don't have an issue with. But one thing that I take issue with is sometimes that birth control, IUDs can do this too. The way that the mechanisms work is its first mechanism is to stop fertilization. No issue with that because it's not another human being yet. It doesn't have its own unique DNA. That's biology. So no issue with that. But now we switch into that pill can stop implantation. So that would be harming another human being. There's different ones that they have different levels of risk. And I would say just as we, I don't know if you guys know what a torvastatin is. That's for like cholesterol. Mm-hmm. So if somebody's pregnant, you're not supposed to be taking that because it could cause birth defects. So we say, hey, like there's this medication that could harm the unborn. Somebody's pregnant or like trying to conceive or doing that stuff, they should be taking like serious concern with like protecting an unborn child. I would say the same thing with birth control. If somebody's using it in that way, it can impose that threat on that innocent child. And I would say the same logic should apply, where if somebody's going to do that, just as we have that stance on a torvastatin, I think we should maybe shift this medication into that category too.
It still comes down to where you have an individual that has control of their own body. They have a future that they're looking towards. They have an unwanted pregnancy that is going to create hardship not only for them but for this child they're bringing in. In our country right now, the government does not support unwanted children. A lot of women are going full term.
You're implying that that's wrong though, right? You're implying that that's wrong.
Forgets about you once you have that child. Do we give a crap about
if they're just a clump of cells? I don't see why we should have any issue with that, right? If they're just a clump of cells, forget about them. Let's just abort them. So I'd say that
cells seems kind of crude, but it's like
it does seem crude.
To me, is not a person until it's viable on its own.
Yeah, I guess I just don't have that much blind faith to believe that, to basically throw aside biology and say, you know what, I know what they say, but I feel like it's not a person, thus I'm fine with them being murdered.
Yeah, see, murdered again is a term that makes it sound even more like a violent act.
I think it's a term that reflects reality.
It's not a violent act when some woman needs to protect herself from a life that she's not prepared for.
A life that she's not prepared for. So you would say, so now we're switching because that's...
A 16-year-old girl gets pregnant, just having recreational sex. All right, she's screwed up. She's a young kid, 16 years old, has a child. She has no financial means to care for this child. If there was a system in this country maybe where this child could give up for adoption, that people would then take this child, but that isn't always going to work either. This child now has a child that isn't prepared to, isn't financially, isn't emotionally, isn't any way and shape able to raise a child.
So just because
in the very early stages, like within weeks of conception, to me, it's like a decision that she should be able to make on her own, that no, I'm not in a position, I cannot have a family, I cannot raise a child, and I should be able to say, no, I'm not going to continue this pregnancy. And I don't see that as murder. I see that as a life choice that is going to be better for her. And how many children are brought into the world that way that do not have a quality life because of the situation they're brought into?
Well, let me lay out an analogy for you. So I used to work in a group home. Those kids, they depended on me to live because they're vulnerable people. And I was in a position where they directly cared, or they directly relied on me to care for them. If I changed my mind and said, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, and then I used that to justify their murder, if I then went in, brought them to a place for them to be put to death because I didn't want to.
It's pretty extreme making that analogy to a fetus.
I think it's applying your logic.
This is not a living, thinking, self-contained individual.
You don't think a fetus is living?
Yeah.
What is it? Is it dead?
It's not viable on its own.
But it's still living. That's still living. That is something that is still living, biologically speaking.
No, it's a difficult topic to talk
I don't know. The more I've heard this side, the more I'm thinking this is just a really, really easy decision to make. And that's because I keep seeing people on this side giving their arbitrary opinion, something like a standard that's only based in their
So
opinion.
you think what I'm saying is arbitrary then, that this
Completely.
child that has gotten pregnant and is in no way and shape able to care for this child, what will become of that child?
Well, you kind of laid out before, adoption, right? If that child doesn't want, if that 16-year-old doesn't want to care for that child, I still think responsibility should be taken to care for that child, because parents have a natural obligation. If they don't want to raise that child afterwards, that's fine. But let's say if that baby is born and she says, I don't want to raise this. I don't want to raise this sucker, right? And then just plunges something into that baby's stomach. I think you'd be horrified by that.
Well,
And I'm just applying your logic from inside the womb to outside the womb. And I think you're beginning to see
I
how
think there's
horrible
a
it
big
is.
difference between a non-viable, you want to use the term clump of cells, but a non-viable fetus, that to me is still under the control of that mother. Then do you want to continue this?
Yeah, but we kind of talked about that. No matter how dependent somebody is on you, doesn't determine their value of life.
But don't you still, okay, so you want to make a law then that no abortion is illegal, that the woman...
That abortion is illegal.
illegal,
Yes.
yes.
Yep.
That the woman has no say in her future then.
She has a say in her future, but I don't think that her being able to say how to lead her future justifies that child's death.
Yeah. No, I know it's, but I agree with you on a lot of points, but I still feel it's a personal choice. I don't think government should make it illegal. I don't think.
When do you think it should be illegal? Can I ask you that?
When a fetus is viable. Like if
Fetus
you
is
have,
viable?
I had a granddaughter that was born premature,
Mm-hmm.
only a couple months, but yeah, could live outside the woman. Long before that, you could already.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you're outside the womb and you can't exist.
Could you describe to me what viability is? I could give a definition if you're struggling with it.
Whether you survive or not. If you have a miscarriage I've had a daughter that had a miscarriage, several miscarriages.
That's awful.
Okay,
Sorry.
no, she didn't murder that child, but
No, she didn't. No, because that was a natural thing that happened.
yeah.
So viability.
This, to me, is not a child yet. When she had a miscarriage, she aborted a fetus.
Why were you implying that
child.
that's a sad thing then? If it's just a clump of cells, it would be irrational to feel
Because
sad
we're
about
looking
that.
towards the future of this being a child. It wasn't a child right now. It
Yeah,
was
that's-
a tiny fetus.
It's quite arbitrary. But let me go into the viability thing. So viability just means that they can't survive on their own. They need to depend on somebody.
Yeah.
Do you know how many people can't survive on their own and they need to depend on somebody else? Like, do you know how many nursing homes, how many hospitals there are? If somebody tried
course.
using that as, are you telling me like little Nancy, she has dementia, you think she can survive out there on her own? No. So we should introduce MAID. That's medical assisted suicide. You're seeing that all over the place now, and it was something that was so
do you
unthinkable.
not agree then that euthanization should be an option for people?
Euthanization is something that's truly evil, and it should be called out as such.
See, again, if I get to that point, I would like to have the option to off myself. It's like I don't want to sit there not knowing my wife, my kids,
Mhm.
my family, not knowing anybody. My quality of life is zero. What is the purpose of living at that point? I would like to, I don't want a gun. I can't go shoot myself. I can't end my own life. But I'd like to talk to my doctor and say, my life is over. I've lived a good life. I don't want to be living in a facility where I don't know anyone, they don't know me, my family doesn't know me anymore. Why is life valuable at that point?
Can I ask you a question? That's my dad right there. He has RSD, and when I was younger, it's really bad. And it's something chronic pain. It's in his arms, and I've seen him in a lot of pain. So when he was in that state, would you support him or encourage him to hang himself if he felt like he didn't want to live like that? Would you say, I get it, his name's Nate. Would you say, listen, Nate, you're going through a tough time. You're saying you want to kill yourself. Yes, jump.
I think it's an individual's choice, really.
So you would encourage my father to
I
kill
wouldn't
himself?
encourage him. I would say you make your decision for yourself.
Can I tell you something? If I walked up on a building and somebody was about to jump and they said, I think I'm going to kill myself, and I go, hey man, you want to do it? Do it. That's encouraging. That's encouraging somebody. So I think your logic would imply that.
Yeah, you can twist a lot of things around, but
Ooh, I can really follow logic, can't I?
Well,
I'm pretty good at that.
So can I, and your logic and my logic are not on the same level.
Well, I think my logic fits with reality.
Well, again, you're talking two extremes.
I think I'm just
From
applying your
birth
reality.
to
Your
end
logic.
of life. So, okay, what did you say, Nate?
Yep, Nate. Yep, you got it.
So if you are diagnosed and you're laying on a hospital bed, there is no chance in hell that you're ever going to be able to recover from this. You're in terrible pain, you're suffering. You would want your dad to suffer until God maybe was what you use as an example then to end his life?
Well, that's a really, I respect you on it, asking that question. That was a good question. But I would say one thing that I see a lot is people conflating MAID. So that's medical assisted suicide. So I'll use that going further. They conflate MAID for hospice. So I have no issue with somebody who's in the process of dying, or maybe not somebody who's in the process of dying, but chronic illness, that we make them as comfortable as we can. But I don't think whatever we're looking for in that, I don't think killing them is a good option. So I would say hospice, something completely different. If my dad was in that situation, I would be absolutely gutted, but that would be something if hospice were to step in and make his exit easier. That would be a moral thing to do. Me in that situation,
but then you
plunging
just murdered
something into
somebody.
somebody. Nope, murder would be the
Yeah.
unjust taking. Letting somebody naturally die is not murder. That's
No,
just
but
somebody
you're saying-
dying.
You say you wouldn't let him, if you could overdose on morphine or something to end your life sooner, you wouldn't be for that either.
No.
Even though terrible pain, suffering, but you're just going to have to hang in there and let it go through its paces here, and you're going to die a miserable, long, extended death.
Mhm.
And that's what you would want.
Well, I think you're laying out, again, I really respect you for pushing me on it so much, but I think you're laying out a very emotional case, which nothing wrong with that, right? I'm not attacking on that. But if we're looking at an emotional case, we have to look at the other side. And what you're saying is that this justifies murder. So if we're saying that this emotional case justifies this, I think we're really taking the weight off of how bad it is to murder somebody. It's really bad to murder somebody.
Oh, yeah.
I think I could make I think I did throughout this whole conversation, how extremely immoral it is to murder somebody. So no matter how bad somebody's situation is here, I think we had common ground in agreeing that we should make that as comfortable as we can for them. I think the part that we disagree is I wouldn't encourage them to kill themselves.
No, but see, that's why you're kind of riding the fence here too. When
I think I'm
you're seeing
riding
somebody
logic.
who is in lots of pain at the end of their life, you'd be okay with giving them a drug to end their life.
Nope, that's not
You
what I
would
said.
let them suffer.
Hospice would be giving them morphine and stuff within a certain dosage to keep them alive, but keep them comfortable. I would not say we should overdose somebody.
Well, even I've had a friend who died of cancer, and no matter how much Oxycontin they gave him, no matter how much morphine he got, he was in terrible pain.
Mhm.
They finally did overdose him on morphine because morphine wasn't stopping the pain. He's in miserable, he's in pain, he's dying. Why let it go on? End it now. It's a humane thing. We euthanize our animals who are sick and dying and in pain because we are able to do that. Why would that be wrong for a human being? Allowing them to suffer until their last breath? Why would you do that to someone you care about?
Yeah.
You have an option then to ease their pain and end their suffering. And you wouldn't do that.
Well, what would you say if somebody came in, they agreed with everything you said? You said, yes, exactly. This guy's going through something bad. And then they grabbed a pillow and then they started snuffing them out as strong as they could. Would you sit there and go on, brother? Or would you say, that's horrible, like, what are you doing?
I would say medical profession gets an injection. Just the way I've had animals euthanized. It's peaceful, it's calm, there's no pain involved. It's a peaceful end to their life. And that's what you want at the end of your life. You don't nobody wants to go out.
Did you know
in
that there's a
pain
lot of
and suffering.
situations where that happens and it's not painless? That they wake up gargling on their own
Yeah,
fluids.
I've seen animals euthanized and nobody's gone through that. It's.
I'm just referring to
quiet.
cases. I'm not referring to hypotheticals. I'm referring to cases.
And I am too. I've seen it myself. I've seen euthanization. Not in humans, of course.
So you saying
seen
that
it in
doesn't
animals.
debunk what the case I'm saying. You're saying that I've seen this and it's nothing like that. I'm saying
So
no
how
matter
do you
what
weigh
you're
out
saying.
then?
What's that?
How do you weigh that out then?
How'd you weigh that out? I don't think
Where-
we should encourage people with illnesses to kill themselves.
If it's okay, well, we're not going to get anywhere on this, but I appreciate, because it is a very tough situation that we're dealing with.
Hey, yeah.
And I haven't, I've got a daughter who went through several miscarriages. She lost a child in the 8th month of her pregnancy, and it was horrible. This was a child, that was alive and well. And I know the pain of it, but I also know that there's plenty of young women out there that cannot raise a child. And you talk about the adoption. Yeah, how that process works, I don't know, but it's not an easy alternative.
Could use some fixes,
And you
couldn't it?
get a woman gives birth to a child. There's an emotional attachment there. Even if you're not able to care for that child, you've given birth to this child, you have an emotional attachment. It's not going to be easy for that woman to give up that child for adoption. You put her through more trauma there. Even like you're talking about, rape is okay. She's going to go through this.
Rape is not okay.
Well,
People conceived in rape deserve to be protected.
You're talking about rape is okay
No.
in that child conceived through rape should be brought to full term. So you're
yes,
okay
but
with rape in that way.
I'm not
but the
okay with
child
rape. That would be
that
misconstruing
is
it.
a child that should be brought into the world. Even though the mother is traumatized, she'll have more trauma after this child is born. She's going to go through all the emotions that a woman has. We're not women, we don't know, but I got daughters, I got a wife. I know the emotional attachment to having a child, and to then tear this child away from this woman is another burden. And so if you can, I'm not going to say, trimester abortions are cool. I think if you find out early on you're pregnant, you should have a choice then not to have that affect the rest of your life or to affect that child's life forever too.
Well, I think we're kind of talking about. I really appreciate you summarizing that. I think I wanted to comment on so much things, but I think we would go back on the things that we talked about before. Yeah. But one thing I really respect you for is you kept this conversation very respectful. And although I'm going to be honest, said some pretty atrocious things, but I really appreciate you showing me a little bit of your heart. And I think you have a good heart, and I just want to see you care for all children.
I think if in this country we could have better education, we could have, we don't really do a good job of educating our young people.
Well,
we don't do a good job of caring for this unwanted child, which leads me to think the other way, because we have how many children growing up in dysfunctional families because they're born into a terrible situation, and we don't do good for this child afterwards. So you're living a life that turns out to be a terrible life. It's a life, but it's not a good life. And there's just so many things that we could do better, and that's where I would start, rather than going to making abortion illegal for everybody and ignoring the fact that some of these just are not going to have good outcomes no matter how you address them.
Let me try summarizing what you said, because I think there's some good things in there. I just think there's some inconsistencies. So we said that the reason why these people should be protected is because their circumstance doesn't mean that they're any less valuable. So we should start there. I'm saying absolutely. The part that we disagree on is you're saying that these people aren't people.
Not when you're an embryo, not when you're a tiny fetus.
I guess I just don't have the blind faith to come to that conclusion, because I look at things like biology and I see that they see the exact opposite on you.
Yeah, I agree, that yes, you formed a life. And this has the potential then to become a full human being.
Mhm.
And I just don't think it's government's role to dictate to the woman how she carries.
I think one of the most important roles government has is protecting the vulnerable. So I'd say I think that this is actually very fitting for the government to be in, because they're the ones that put murder laws in place for you. If somebody murders you, that would be horrific. And I support those laws in place, and I want to see that actually reflect
So
reality.
do you then blindly then, I'll use our guy now, Trump.
Mhm.
A lot of people voted for Trump on one issue, the abortion issue, and he accomplished that. So all the horrible things he's done, you're okay with that then, because of
Not
the one thing
necessarily.
you wanted
Not
was
necessarily.
accomplished.
I guess
so
this
you're
might
gonna
be.
ignore all the other evils in the world to get the one thing you want.
Well, let me jump in there. I would say that one thing that you might see different than me versus somebody else that maybe you've talked to on this issue is I am perfectly fine with acknowledging that there are some things that Trump does that I don't like. Except for I would weigh that there's some things that he does that I do like, and I think it far outweighs it. So I am very comfortable with saying if we find something that we agree on, and we're saying I don't like that Trump did this, I wouldn't blindly follow Trump because I just want to.
That one issue overrides all the other issues.
So I'd say
You
that
know,
there's actually a
his-
lot of issues I agree with Trump on this. I guess what my stance would be.
The whole Epstein thing, you don't think Trump was involved. Most people do believe he is
I don't
involved.
know.
This is, all these issues that are far more important in my mind, that you will ignore all the other horrible things.
I will
that
not
happen.
ignore it. I'm with you. I'm
One
calling you out
issue.
the horrible things. I'm with you in calling out that what Epstein did was terrible, because you have a stronger person that is attacking a vulnerable person.
There you are. With your
What's abortion, man? You got a stronger person who is attacking a vulnerable person.
No, I gotta go, but
Okay, well, hey,
I
I
do
appreciate you, buddy. Okay,
appreciate
what was your
it.
name?
Chuck.
Chuck Elijah.
All right.
Good to meet you, man. Have a good one.
All right.